W5FC. Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet?
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break break with your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. Recent astronomical discoveries. And 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A and 12. 73 round, if there's time. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So, let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Please come now.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power.
Kilo India 5, November Oscar November, mobile near the Eisman Center.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite, low power.
Kilo in Papa Whiskey November. This is Tom in Plano, low power.
Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, mobile, at the corner of Walk and Don't Walk. Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert, mobile, Lake Ray Hubbard.
And Allen, short time.
Kilo India 5, Papa, short time.
Whiskey, Bravo, 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4, MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Okay, I'm going to need a bunch of fills. We got W5GUS, Gus, got that okay. Then have KI5NON. Your name, please.
Good evening, this is Logan, KI5 November Oscar November, mobile, Richardson, based out of Garland.
Sir, would you tell me your name again, please?
The name is Logan, Lima Oscar Golf Alpha November, Logan, KI5 NON.
Okay, Logan, well, thank you for checking in. Stand by. We have KG5 IUE, I think. David, I should know your call. Is that right?
It's KG5 UKU, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
I'm sorry, I'm confusing you with another David, KG5 UKU. Next we have Tom, and his part of his call is Papa Whiskey November. I missed the prefix.
Kilo India 5, Papa Whiskey November, Tom, in Plano.
Kilo India 5, Papa Whiskey November. Then I have another Kilo India 5, and I missed the rest of it and the name. We had a double or two in there, so please, if you know who you are, the next KI5, please let me know.
This is Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike. Name here is Travis. I think that's the KI5 you're looking for.
Well, I don't have any of that down. There's some more KI5s, but I got KI5 PGM Travis. Then the next one, I missed the prefix, but I've got A, Alpha Hotel, and Robert. What is your prefix, please?
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel. Robert. Then we have Kilo India 5, Papa, and I missed the name.
Hello, thank you for running this net. My name is Ronnie. I'm out in Springtown, and I'm a first-time check-in.
And so you're Kilo India 5, Papa?
Yes, ma'am, I forgot about that. KI5 PPP.
All right, well, thanks for checking in. Next we have WB4 MFI, Ted. All right, let's, anybody else that I didn't get in the first round?
And Alan, short time.
November 5, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Please.
Double.
Okay, that time I didn't get any of it. Let's try again.
November 5, Bravo, Bill and Irving. Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob and Dallas.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Alan, short time.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor and Lima, James and Carrollton. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Phil. Five, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
November 8th, Lima Bravo, Rockwall. Name is Larry.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 p.m.
Okay, let's pick those up. We have November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill, KG5, UFR, John, N5, WOI, William, KG5, WVL, James, KF5, ZBL, Bill, NT5TM, Tony, KF5, JHA, Chaz, then I think it's N8, November 8th, Lima Bravo, Larry. He can come back, correct me if I'm wrong there. KG5, BZWJ, and AG5PM, Rich. Any corrections, or did I miss anybody? Okay, anybody on Echolink want to check in?
Golf 5, Zulu, Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Okay, Joe, first, that's Zulu Mike Golf, Mr. Prefix. Would you please repeat it?
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu, Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf. Thanks for joining, Joe. Do we have any other regular check-ins?
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
All right, we got Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly. Okay, well, we'll take some more check-ins later, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, do we have any general announcements for this evening's nets? This could be ham, astronomical, space, or just to license hams.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Go ahead, Tony.
good is a speedboat without a mine layer and a hang glider? Well, no good at all. Tonight we'll talk about that at 10:30 p.m. on the Afterglow Movie Net. The Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30 p.m. Also, please remember that because tomorrow is Father's Day, there is no Racy's Training Net. There is no Racy's Training Net. I apologize. I forgot to mention that earlier. In the evening, I'll try to spread the word tomorrow, too. No Racy's Training Net tomorrow. Don't forget. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Don't forget, next Saturday is the ARRL Field Day. DARC will be doing remote sessions again this year. We're looking forward to next year with a new Field Day location with all of us together again. In the meantime, go to the club website, www.w5fc.org, and look for the DARC ARRL Field Day 2021 and sign-up info. It should appear near or at the top of the main page. Next Saturday night, we will also be doing our Night of Nets. So if you'd like to take a break from contesting, drop by for any or all of the nets. We'll be here. The AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, BL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom and 5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month, though, is the DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East then. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. in the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. So the DARC hosted nets, Mondays, first week Ham Fixins, second week MCOM 101, third week Ham Fixins, fourth week GeekNet, fifth week Surprise Net. And if we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m. Fridays, CERT City Simulation. Summer hours are 8 to 9 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. Saturdays, TechNet, 7 to 8, and then, of course, Skynet at 9 p.m. And then at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, MODA. Every day, lunch bunch, 12 noon, Monday through Friday. There's always a survey question. Eat lunch with us. You got to bring your own lunch. ARRL Net, National Training System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central. All are welcome to check in on any or all of those nets. So let's talk about tonight's Afterglow. The man got out of his electric car and headed to his mega mansion in his pneumatic tube. The automatic doors to his office opened when sensing his presence. The giant television sprung to life. The screen imaged a giant aircraft on top, a shuttle of some sort. He maniacally laughed, grabbed a cat plushie, and rubbed its stuffed head. Soon, world, I will launch innocent humans into space. I will make humanity a 2-planet race, and they will all drive my electric cars and ride my giant spaceships on both planets. The screen continued displaying the space shuttle. Suddenly, the engines ignited and the shuttle rapidly launched from the massive aircraft, causing an explosion. The man laughed again, and the plushy pseudo-cat's head giving him comfort. The giant screen dissolved to a man in a tuxedo shooting at the screen. The sole viewer was most pleased. Then he said to himself, "What they do not know are all my plans for space domination come from this obscure 1979 movie. I plan for everything, even the Space Marines." Join us for the next Afterglow movie masterpiece, Moonraker, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. And this is WB50ZL. Next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Chaz, KF5JHA, do you have information on that? Please come now.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone on the net. Yes, this is KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held next Friday, on Friday, June the 25th at 7:30 p.m. The featured speaker will be Emily Levesque. She's the author of a popular science book called The Last Stargazers. It takes a look behind the scenes of a tour of a life of a professional astronomer. She talks about some of the most powerful telescopes in the world, people who run them, and explore the crucial role of human curiosity in the past, present, and future of scientific discovery. It sounds like it might take a lot longer than our normal speaker does. Past club members will receive a link to the virtual Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Hopefully later this year, TASS will resume having its face-to-face meetings. And it looks like maybe next month, in July, we're going to start resuming having public observing sessions. Check the website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details. And this is KF5JHA. Back to Night Control.
Thank you, Chaz. Now, National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB, do you have something for us?
Yes, this is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I am the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions about National Space Society, you can reach me at N5BB at ARRL.net. That's November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at ARRL.net. The meetings of National Space Society are on Sunday afternoons at 4 p.m. For the last over a year, since March of last year, we've been holding our meetings virtually, but we're planning on trying to do a in-person meeting for our July meeting on Sunday afternoon, July the 11th. If we do this, it'll probably be at our old location, the Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 at Beltline in Irving. The big thing coming up, I discussed last week, it's the International Space Development Conference 2021, which this year will be virtual, and it will be occurring over 4 days, starting this coming Thursday, June the 24th, and ending on Sunday, June the 27th. The first 3 days will be completely free, and it'll be streamed via YouTube and some other streaming services. The final day, June the 27th, Sunday, will be pay only. You have to pay to get a ticket to see it. There's a lot of very interesting people who will be speakers during ISDC 2021. Big people at NASA and a lot of other very interesting people. If you want to find out more about ISDC, the International Space Development Conference, you can do a web search for ISDC space 2021. Unfortunately, there is another group which calls itself ISDC, totally unrelated. So make sure you come up with the space one. The website is isdc2021.nss.org. And that's all I have right now. This is Inside BB.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell.
Okay, Kilo 5, JDW John. I'm also going to add KE5ICX. He hasn't checked in, but I believe he is here. His name is Tom.
Okay, I'll check in. KE5ICX, Tom, Louisville.
Sorry, I never heard you. I never wrote you down. Maybe you doubled with somebody at some point. But you do want to make sure you got on the list, because it's important. All right. Next, we have the discussion topic of the evening. That would be me. I get to choose. An article this week is called Mapping the Boundary of the Heliosphere. I want to credit Paul Gilster for this article. So, between the solar system and interstellar space is a boundary layer called the Heliosheath. Or maybe we should call this boundary should define it as being between the inner planetary part of the solar system and interstellar space. After all, we consider the Oort cloud as part of our own system, and yet it begins much further out. Both voyagers have crossed the region where the sun's heliosphere ends and interstellar space begins, while they won't reach the Oort, by some estimates, for another 300 years. The broader region is called the Heliopause, a place where the outflowing solar wind of protons, electrons, and alpha particles, that's 2 protons and 2 neutrons tightly bound, encounters what we can call the interstellar wind, itself pushing up against the heliosphere and confining the solar wind-dominated region to a bubble. We now learn that this boundary region has been mapped, showing interactions at the surface. A paper describing this feat has now appeared with Dan Riesenfeld, Los Alamos National Laboratory, as lead author, says Riesenfeld. Physics models have theorized this boundary for years, but this is the first time we've actually been able to measure it and make a three-dimensional map of it. Riesenfeld and team used data from IBEX, that's IBEX, the Interstellar Boundary Explorer satellite, which orbits the Earth but detects energetic neutral atoms, ENAs, from the zone where solar wind particles collide with those of the interstellar wind. Riesenfeld likens the process to bats using sonar, with IBEX using the solar wind as the outgoing signal and mapping the return signal, which varies depending on the intensity of the solar wind striking the heliosheath. Changes in the ENA count trigger the IBEX detectors. The solar wind signal sent out by the sun varies in strength, forming a unique pattern as Riesenfeld. IBEX will see that same pattern in the returning ENA signal 2 to 6 years later, depending on ENA energy and the direction IBEX is looking through the heliosphere. This time difference is how we found the distance to the ENA source region in a particular direction. The IBEX data cover a complete solar cycle from 2009 through 2019. We learned that the minimum distance from the Sun to the Heliopause is about 120 AU in the direction facing the interstellar wind, while in the opposite direction we see a tail that extends to at least 350 AU, which the paper notes is the distance limit of the measurement technique. The asymmetric shape is striking. From the paper's abstract, as each point in the sky is sampled once every 6 months, this gives us a time series of 22 points, macropixel -1, on which to time correlate. Consistent with prior studies and heliospheric models, we found that the shortest distance to the Heliopause, DHP, is slightly south of the nose direction, DHP 110 -20 AU, with flaring toward the flanks and poles. The data make it clear the interactions between the solar wind and the interstellar medium occur over distances much larger than the size of the solar system. It's also clear that because the solar wind is not steady, the shape of the heliosphere is ever-changing. A gust of solar wind causes the heliosphere to inflate with surges of neutral particles along its outer boundary, while lower levels of solar wind cause a contraction that is detected as a concurrent diminution of the number of neutral particles. IBEX has been a remarkably successful mission with a whole solar cycle of observations now under its belt. As we assimilate the data, we can look forward to IMAP, the interstellar mapping, an acceleration probe, which is scheduled to launch in late 2024 and should enable scientists to extend the solid work IBEX has begun. Excuse me. All right, this is WB50ZL. Next up, we have What's Up by Chaz, KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Just to let you know, in case something goes awry with me this evening, Bob the cat wants to lay on the computer keyboard and wants to control the microphone, but I'm not letting him so far. My degree is in astrophysics. I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We do call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide number 2, Slide Master. The Slide Master is actually Tom. If you see him, if you're watching the video version, here he is. He might be even waving at us. I don't know. I don't have the video version up right now. On June the 17th, the moon was at its first quarter. So today, just a couple days later, the moon is at a waxing gibbous phase. So on June 23rd, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point on the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. On June 24th, the moon will be full. Slide number 3, please, sir. On June 20th at 10:32 p.m. Central Daylight Time is the moment of summer solstice for us here in the Northern Hemisphere, which is the astronomical beginning of summer, again, for us in the Northern Hemisphere. On this day in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the longest day and the shortest night of the year. Slide number 4, please. On June 26th, in the late evening sky, you can watch the moon and Saturn rising in conjunction in the southeastern sky. Slide number 5. On the night of June 26th and 27th, you can watch the June Birthdays meteor shower, which could produce from about a dozen to more than 100 meters per hour. It's not really predictable what the maximum will be, but a large number of visible meteors are not expected this year because the full moon on June the 24th will interfere with the observation. Slide number 6, please. The moon and Jupiter can be seen rising together in the southeastern sky about an hour after midnight on the early morning of June the 31st. Wait, are there 31 days in June? No, must not be. Must be June 30th. Get new riders. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 7, once again, please. The next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting, again, is going to be on June 25th at 7:30 p.m. And Dr. Emily Levesque will be talking about her science book, The Last Stargazers. Past club members will receive a Zoom email advanced link to the meeting somewhere about a week ahead of time. Now, if you want more information about this, you can go to texasastro.org for updated information. Slide number 8. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question.
W5GUS.
Go ahead, Gus. What's your question?
Hi, Chaz. Thanks. W5GUS here. I was so disheartened to hear about the computer on the Hubble. I'm wondering if there might be, with all the hardware out there, those mirrors and everything so precise and valuable, I wonder if there might be some kind of a rescue mission. Do you think that someday maybe someone will replace those computers out there? W5GUS.
That's a great question. Right now, the answer is no. The Hubble was designed to have missions sent to it, but that was the space shuttle, and we don't do space shuttles anymore, but maybe something in the future. We also have the James Webb Telescope that's going up sometime. It's been delayed so many times, I don't know when it's going to go up. And that's supposed to replace the Hubble, although it's going to use different wavelengths, different frequencies to take its images. So it's not going to be exactly the same as Hubble. So I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. Kelly, do you have any advanced information as a solar system ambassador about this? K5 KTX, let us know.
This is K5 KTX, and I'm going to actually be talking a little bit about the issue with the Hubble coming up next. But as far as I know, there are no plans to recover those computers. The last servicing mission was in May of 2009 with STS-125. But as far as I know, there's no plans to fix that issue. And the James Webb Space Telescope is at this point scheduled to launch in early November, I believe. This is K5 KTX.
Pardon me for laughing, but yeah, we've heard that before with the James Webb, so I'm not going to hold my breath for that one. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, hey, if we can launch cars into space with a private company, maybe we can send a rescue mission to Hubble. I just thinking, I don't know. All right, thank you so much. This is KF5JHA. So as the moon wanes at the end of June, so that these words for this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next week, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, Brenda. It's all back to you. Do you hear Bob the cat meowing in the background?
No, I don't, but tell him hello for me. I don't currently have any cat allowed in here right now, but that could change. Do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, KG5APL, Patrick, welcome to the net. All right, next we have space exploration and space history. Kelly, K5KTX. It's over to you, please.
Thank you, Brenda. This is K5KTX, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, NASA is continuing to work on resolving an issue with the payload computer on the Hubble Space Telescope. The operations team will be running tests and collecting more information on the system to further isolate the problem. The science instruments will remain in a safe mode state until the issue is resolved. The telescope itself and science instruments remain in good health. The computer halted on Sunday, June the 13th. An attempt to restart the computer failed on Monday, June the 14th. Initial indications pointed to a degrading computer memory module as the source of the computer halt. When the operations team attempted to switch to a backup memory module, however, the command to initiate the backup module failed to complete. Another attempt was conducted on both modules Thursday evening to obtain more diagnostic information, while again trying to bring those memory modules online. However, those attempts were not successful. Now get this, the payload computer is a NASA Standard Spacecraft Computer 1, or NSSC-1 system that was built in the 1980s that is located on the Science Instrument Command and Data Handling Unit. The computer's purpose is to control and coordinate the science instruments and monitor them for health and safety purposes. It is fully redundant in that a second computer, along with its associated hardware, exists on orbit that can be switched over to in the event of a problem. Both computers can access and use any of 4 independent memory modules, which each contain 64K of complementary metal oxide semiconductor, or CMOS, memory. The payload computer uses only 1 memory module operationally at a time, with the other 3 serving as backups. This computer module was last replaced during the final Hubble servicing mission in May 2009. I did check just a little bit ago, and there's not been any updates on that since, so I guess they get the weekend off, and so maybe on Monday we'll have some more information on that. So just go to nasa.gov and be looking for some updates there. Now, on to the International Space Station. On Wednesday, NASA astronaut Kimbrough and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet concluded their spacewalk at 2:26 p.m. Central Daylight Time after 7 hours and 15 minutes. In the 7th spacewalk of the year outside the International Space Station, the 2 astronauts installed a new ISS Roll-Out Solar Array, or IROSA, into its mounting bracket on the far end of the left, or port side, of the station's backbone truss structure, or P6. Kimbrough and Pesquet successfully removed the array from its position in the flight support equipment and maneuvered it into position on the mast canister at the 2B power channel. Before the new array can be deployed and begin providing power to the orbiting laboratory, spacewalkers will need to install the electrical cables and drive the final 2 bolts to enable the solar array to unfurl its fully deployed position. Pesquet and Kimbrough are scheduled for another spacewalk coming up tomorrow, June the 20th, to continue the installation of the new solar arrays. NASA is augmenting 6 of the 8 existing power channels of the space station with new solar arrays to ensure a sufficient power supply is maintained for NASA's exploration technology demonstrations for Artemis and beyond, as well as utilization and commercialization. This was the 7th spacewalk for Kimbrough, the 3rd for Pesquet, and the 3rd they conducted together. Kimbrough has now spent a total of 46 hours and 15 minutes spacewalking, and Pesquet's total spacewalking time is 19 hours and 47 minutes. In in space history this week, beginning with June the 13th. Back in 1963, NASA signed the contract with the David Clark Company for the development and manufacture of the Gemini spacesuits. The total cost, including fixed fee of the contract, was $829,594.80. Over the next few years, the David Clark Company worked with NASA to develop several modified designs for use on Gemini. You may be most familiar with the G4C suit developed in 1965. It was worn by astronaut Ed White during his Gemini 4 EVA, the first U.S. spacewalk. The NASA-David Clark relationship did not end with Project Gemini. The David Clark Company went on to develop the Apollo communications carrier, the Shuttle Launch Entry Suit, and the Shuttle Advanced Crew Escape Suit. On June 16th of the same year, 1963, Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Terescova became the first woman in space. After launching on Vostok 6, her spacecraft came within 3 miles of Vostok 5, which had been launched on June the 14th. She radioed Valery Bakovsky, the cosmonaut aboard Vostok 5, and ground using the call sign Chaika, which means seagull in Russian. She circled the Earth 48 times before landing on June the 19th. And then 20 years later, on June the 18th, 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space when Space Shuttle STS-7, or Challenger, launched. Ride was selected as an astronaut candidate in January of 1978, along with 34 other people. She worked as a Capcom on the STS-2 and STS-3 missions before being selected for STS-7. Ride was a payload specialist on that mission. She also worked as a payload specialist on STS-41G, her second and final space flight. Before retiring from NASA, she worked at NASA headquarters as special assistant to the administrator for long-range and strategic planning. And for astronaut birthdays this past week, we have two. June the 13th, 1945, Ronald Grabe, who was part of 4 Space Shuttle missions, STS-51J, STS-30, STS-42, and STS-57. And then June the 16th, 1940, was Taylor Wang, and his one mission was Space Shuttle mission STS-51B. And that is all that I have this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Brenda.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Chaz, KF5JHA. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. We're talking about how the computer over here on Echolink, things that go on Echolink and what's on the radio, and sometimes what's going on the video has nothing to do with each other. Yes, okay. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. There are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named it after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Libra, the Scales. Now, Libra is a zodiacal constellation. It's the only member of the zodiac that depicts an inanimate object. Interesting. The ancient Greeks did not recognize Libra, but instead had its stars representing the claws of the ancient Scorpius. Other cultures included the ancient Romans, Egyptians, Hebrews, Indians, and recognized Libra as a balance. Isn't that interesting? Several different cultures. Several different cultures recognize Ursa Major as a bear, too. The concept of the balance scale in the sky originates from the equal lengths of day and night at the equinox. 2,000 years ago, the September equinox was in what is now called Libra. So the stars in that part of the sky came to be associated with the balance of scales. Due to the precession of the equinox when the sun is in September, equinox today is in the constellation of Virgo. Slide number 11, please, Mr. Slide Master. Now, this is what you've been waiting for all night long, maybe since last week. Okay, well, it's the jokes of the week anyway. How did the psychic achieve a work-life balance? Well, by finding a happy medium, of course. Oh, come on, that was funny. I love it. Okay. Okay, this one I'm telling you about the neck control. Brenda kept trying to balance mint on her foot. Why did Brenda keep trying to balance mint on her foot? Well, it turns out she was playing tic-tac-toe. Oh, I think that's funny. Okay. Why did the tiger eat the tightrope walker? He wanted a well-balanced diet. You notice all these have to do with a balance or a scale. Yeah. What do teenagers call a well-balanced meal? A packet of ramen noodles in each hand. So I have 6 goldfish named Major, Minor, Flat 9, Bebop, Altered, and the Blues. The only way I can tell them apart is by their scales. Scales and balances are about the same thing, yeah. And the final joke for this evening, well, at least in this part of this segment. A wife saw her husband sucking in his stomach while standing on the scale and said, "That won't help." And he said, "Yes, it does. I can read the numbers now." Okay, after this one, we need to go to slide number 12, please, Slide Master. I love this star. Zupanel Ganubi is also known as Alpha Libra, which is the brightest star in Libra, of a magnitude of 2.00. It lies very close to the ecliptic. Zupanel Ganubi is Arabic for the Southern Claw. The names of these stars date back to the time when the stars were currently in Libra were part of Scorpius. Zupanel Ganubi is a double star and is very easy to split or separate. It can be easily split with just a common 6x30 finder, or you should be able to even see it in a 20x80 binoculars and easily split. Despite the wide separation, the two stars share the same proper motion and are believed to be a true physical pair. Another star, Zupanel Shimali, is known as Beta Libra and shines at magnitude 2.59. The name means the northern claw. Using an 8-inch telescope and low magnification, Zupanel Shimali is nicely framed by a triangle of fainter stars. All three are similar in brightness. The star looks white through a telescope. Slide number 13, please. NGC 5897 is a globular cluster and also known as the ghost globular cluster because of how faint it is. In their book, The Night Sky Observer's Guide, George Keppel and Glenn Sander wrote that an 8-inch to 10-inch scope, this globular cluster was a diffuse low-surface brightness halo with a poor concentrated center. A few dozen stars may be glimpsed with averted vision. Now, with a 16 to 18 scope, they note that the cluster resolves well. This globular cluster is very faint. It needs more aperture than an 8-inch SET, in other words, a Cassegrain telescope. And an 8-inch telescope can barely start to resolve some of the brighter cluster members. Averted vision, that means don't look directly at it, but off to the edge and let not the center of your eyeball, but the side of your eyeball actually see it, which can see fainter objects. Otherwise, this faint globular cluster is faint and fuzzy, sort of glowing background. Slide number 14, PK 3342 plus 27.1. Isn't that a funny name? for a planetary nebula. As to the nebula itself, initially at low power, it looks like a fainter member of a double star. Increasing magnification shows it to be an extended object, although it's a small one. At 126 power and an 8-inch scope, the outer edges of the nebula appear to be somewhat fuzzy. There is eventually a bit more to see in larger instruments. Kepler and Sander write that in a 16 to 18-inch telescope at 300 power, the 7 arcsecond diameter disk of the nebula is visible surrounding a star-like center. I have to look at this with my telescope. Slide number 15, please. NGC 5878, by the way, NGC stands for New General Catalog, is a spiral galaxy with magnitude 12.5. That's kind of faint for most amateur telescopes. In an 8-inch telescope, this galaxy is right at the limit of visibility. Averted vision is a must with that kind of small telescope. It appears as an elongated faint glow, just barely visible. The long axis is aligned with a north-south alignment. Slide number 16, ARP 254. ARP, by the way, is a particular type of catalog named after the creator of the catalog on peculiar galaxies. ARP 254 is a challenging object according to the book of the ARP Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies. NGC 5917, also known as ARP 254, has a faint companion galaxy known as MCG-1-39-3, and a tenuous bridge, presumably of stars, gas, and dust, connects them. Close examination of photos taken with a large observatory telescope show that the interiors of both galaxies appear to have been affected by each other. Since the system is totally isolated in intergalactic space, the bridge and the distributed appearance of the disk suggests an galactic sideswipe. In an 8-inch nor a 16-inch telescope can visually see this object. It's too faint. This is an object for the astrophotographer to explore. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 17, please. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in this constellation of Libra, the scales. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can actually earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide number 18, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Libra, the scales. And I want to thank my friends Steve Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I usually steal for Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time I'll take a look at 2 constellations, Boötes, the Shepherd, or Hertzman, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. And this is KF5JHA sending it back to our net control, Brenda. Thank you for being net control tonight.
And thank you for that report, Chaz. All right, next up, space launches for this week. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me ask if there are more check-ins. All righty. Tom, KE5ICX, what do you have for space launches this week?
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX. It's a reasonably busy week. Boy, oh boy. So launch practically every day. Let's see. We have on June 25th, we have a couple of launches. First one is Pion NKS-1. This is from the Plastic Cosmodrome in Russia. Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch the Pion NKS-1 electronic intelligence gathering satellite for the Russian military. This is the first Pion NKS spacecraft, a new generation of reconnaissance satellites for naval surveillance. The rocket will fly on a Soyuz, everybody say it together, 2.1D configuration, but this is new, without an upper stage. Well, that's a new one. Usually has the Fregat upper stage. June 25th, Falcon 9 Transporter 2 will launch between 2:56 and 3:54 Eastern Daylight Time. This is from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, SLC-40 in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Transporter 2 mission, a rideshare flight to the sun-synchronous orbit with numerous small microsatellites and nanosatellites for commercial and government customers. This was moved up from July, believe it or not, okay, for the June 25th launch. June 29th, we have a Soyuz Progress 78P. This is going to launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. A Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch the 78th Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in a Soyuz 2.1 configuration. It doesn't say it used the Fregat upper stage, but I bet it does. On July 1st, we do have a Soyuz mission also. This one's from the Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. A Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 36 satellites into orbit for the OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use the Fregat upper stage. I thought they may have forgot about it on the last two missions. In July, to be determined, Falcon 9 Starlink mission. This will launch from SLC-4E. This is interesting. Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, the other coast. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch on the first dedicated mission with a Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base. This mission will deploy an unspecified number of Starlink satellites into high inclination orbit. I suspect less than 40. That's just my guess. On July 15th, we have a Proton launch. This is from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian government Proton rocket will launch the Nauka laboratory module to the International Space Station. The Nauka module, or the multi-purpose laboratory module, will also carry the European robotic arm to the space station. Now, the Proton is the heaviest of the Russian vehicles, heavy lift rocket, so it should be interesting. Sometimes it's very successful, other times not so much. Definitely worth watching at 1:16 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. On July 27th, another big boy. This is the Ariane 5. The Ariane, this will be from ELA-3 in Kourou, French Guiana. Ariane Space will use an Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA254 to launch the Star 1D2 and Eutelsat quantum communication satellite. Owned by the Brazilian operator Embratel, Star 1. The Star 1D2 was built by Maxar and will deliver telecommunications, direct-to-home television services, and fast broadband to customers in South America, Mexico, South America, and parts of the Atlantic Ocean. The Eutelsat quantum satellite was built by SSTL and Airbus Defence and Space under the auspices of the Public-Private Research and Development Project between the European Space Agency, Eutelsat, and Airbus. Designed for coverage over the Middle East and North Africa, the software-defined satellite will be reprogrammed for new communications missions in orbit. Ooh, that's kind of cool. And then finally, on July 30th, an Atlas. This is not a small thing either. All right, everybody listen up. Here it is. A United States Alliance Atlas V rocket, designated AV-082, will launch Boeing's CST-100 Starliner spacecraft on a second unpiloted test flight to the International Space Station. This mission was added after Boeing's decision to refly Starliner's orbital flight test before proceeding with the crew flight test. The rocket will fly in a vehicle configuration with 2 solid rocket boosters and a dual-engine Centaur upper stage. This is delayed from the 3rd quarter, delayed from January 4th, and it's got all sorts of delays. But maybe, just maybe, Boeing will get its manned access to space thing going here. They've had very bad luck. Okay, that's all I've got on this one. I didn't know we'd be so far ahead, but at any rate, I'll give lots more next week. Back to net control, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, thanks. Do we have any more check-ins who want to come in?
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Charlie Mobile.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Charlie, and your name, please.
The handle's Al, and I'm in Rockwall.
Okay, Al, well, thanks for checking in. All right, let's move on. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. The article this week is entitled Hubble Data Confirms Galaxies Lacking Dark Matter. The most accurate distance measurement yet of ultra-diffuse galaxy, UDC, NGC 1052-DF2 confirms beyond any shadow of a doubt that it is lacking in dark matter. The newly measured distance of 22.1 plus or minus 1.2 megaparsecs was obtained by an international team of researchers led by Zili Shen and Peter von Dockum of Yale University and Shani Danieli, a NASA Hubble Fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study. Determining an accurate distance to DF2 has been a key in supporting our earlier results, said Danieli. The new measurement reported in this study has crucial implications for estimating the physical properties of the galaxy, thus confirming its lack of dark matter. The results, published in Astrophysical Journal Letters on June 9th, 2021, are based on 40 orbits of NASA's Hubble Space Telescope, with imaging by the advanced camera for surveys and a tip of the giant red branch, TRGB analysis, the gold standard for centrifying measurements. In 2019, the team published results in measuring the distance to neighboring UDG NGC 1052-DF4 based on 12 Hubble orbits and TRGB analysis, which provided compelling evidence of missing dark matter. This preferred method expands on the team's 2018 studies that relied on surface brightness fluctuations to gauge distance. Both galaxies were discovered with the Dragonfly telephoto array at the New Mexico Skies Observatory. We went out on a limb with our initial Hubble observations of this galaxy in 2018, Van Dokkum said. I think people were right to question it because it's such an unusual result. It would be nice if there were a simple explanation like a wrong distance, but I think it's more fun and more interesting if it actually is a weird galaxy. In addition to earlier distance findings, the Hubble results indicated that the galaxies were located slightly farther away than previously thought, strengthening the case that they contain little to no dark matter. If DF2 were closer to Earth, as some astronomers claim, it would be intrinsically fainter and less massive, and the galaxy would need dark matter to account for the observed effects of the total mass. Dark matter is widely considered to be an essential ingredient of galaxies, but this study lends further evidence that its presence may not be inevitable. While dark matter has yet to be directly observed, gravitational influence is like a glue that holds galaxies together and governs the motion of visible matter. In the case of DF2 and DF4, researchers were able to account for the motion of stars based on stellar mass alone, suggesting a lack or absence of dark matter. Ironically, the detection of galaxies deficient in dark matter will likely help to reveal its puzzling nature and provide new insights into galactic evolution. While DF2 and DF4 are both comparable in size to the Milky Way galaxy, their total masses are only about 1% of the Milky Way's mass. These ultra-diffuse galaxies are also found to have a large population of especially luminous globular clusters. This research has generated a great deal of scholarly interest, as well as energetic debate among proponents of alternative theories to dark matter, such as modified Newtonian dynamics, MOND. However, with the team's most recent findings, including the relative distances of the two UDGs to NGC 1052, such alternative theories seem less likely. Additionally, there is now little uncertainty in the team's distance measurements, given the use of the TRGB method. Based on fundamental physics, this method depends on the observation of red giant stars that emit a flash after burning through their helium supply that always happens at the same brightness. There's a saying that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and the new distance measurement strongly supports our previous finding that DF2 is missing dark matter, stated Shin. Now it's time to move beyond the distance debate and focus on how such galaxies came to exist. Moving forward, researchers will continue to hunt for more of these oddball galaxies while considering a number of questions such as, how are UDGs formed? What do they tell us about standard cosmological models? How common are these galaxies, and what other unique properties do they have? It will take uncovering many more dark, matterless galaxies to resolve these mysteries and the ultimate question of what dark matter really is. All right, that's from ScienceDaily.com. So let's move on to visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. KE5 ICX, Tom, do you have something for us?
Yes, indeed. I can give a number of passes that are occurring this month, or over the next couple of weeks, actually. The International Space Station, of course, is always a favorite. We have several passes. June 24th, this is a minus 1.1 magnitude at 4:55 a.m., reaches its highest point at 4:50. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me look again. 24th. I'm looking at the wrong screen here. Hold on. All right, here we go. There's a pass on June 24th, much better, minus 3.7 magnitude, 5:41 a.m., reaches its highest point at 5:45 at 86 degrees, so it's due right overhead, and it falls at 5:48 to the northeast, so that one is a really, really good pass directly overhead. On June 25th, we also have a minus 2.9 magnitude, 4:56 a.m. It'll be out of the south at 26 degrees. It'll reach its highest point at 42 degrees at 4:57, and it'll fall at 5:01. Again, not a bad pass, a little more oblique, but okay. Then we have June 27th. This one is at 4:58 a.m. out of the west. It'll reach its highest point, 48 degrees in the northwest, and it will fall at 5:03 to the northeast. And then finally, for the space station, minus 3.4 magnitude, really bright. This one comes out of shadow at 4:12 out of the northeast at 63 degrees, so it's going to be kind of like mid-sky when it appears. Well, actually, that'll be its highest point at 4:12:48, and it'll fall at 4:15. So it's a 3-minute pass into the northeast. So not too bad. Of course, you only get about half the fun you normally do. Now, the 10 He One space station, which the Chinese launched here a couple of months ago, and now there's a 3-man crew on board, does fly over, not quite as frequently, at least from the, I'm not sure what the deviation is from the equator that they're flying, the orbital inclination, but in the U.S. as it is apparently in China or elsewhere. So we don't get the really high passes, although there was one early this evening, but of course it's gone. That one was almost directly overhead. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does fly overhead every once in a while. So there are 2 passes I can tell you about. June 21st, 2.0 magnitude. Now remember, it's relatively small compared to the International Space Station. It's got 1 module, and a cargo ship, and then 1 3-man spacecraft there. So this one, June 21st, let me look at this, 2.0 magnitude, 4:31 a.m., out of the northwest, reaches its highest point at 4:32, and then falls at 39 degrees, and then falls at 4:35 out of the northeast. The second one for the Chinese space station is June 28th, 2.4 magnitude, at 5:26 a.m. reaches its highest point in the north-northeast at 42 degrees at 5:29, and then falls to the north-northeast at 5:32. Another partial pass, but not too terrible. Next up is the X-37B. Now this is the winged unmanned spacecraft, sort of a successor to the Space Shuttle, run by U.S. Space Force. It's been in orbit now for, I think, about a year. It has flown before, but we don't know much about it. So it does long-duration missions. There are at least 2 of these vehicles. One is currently in space, one on the ground. There may be more. Who knows? June 21st, there is a good pass. This one's 0.6 magnitude. Let me look here, make sure I get the right. Yeah, this is one. 5:24 a.m. reaches its highest point at 5:27 at 87 degrees, so it'll go directly overhead, and it'll fall at 5:30 to the southeast. The June 22nd, there's another pass. This one is 1.8 magnitude, 22:35. At least this one's in the evening, late evening. Out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point to the north-northwest at 22:38, then falls at 22:41. Next one is June 22nd. June 22nd pass is, well, actually there's 2 June 22nd passes. First one's 1.9 magnitude at 4:26 a.m., reaches its highest point at 4:29 at 41 degrees, falls to the north-northeast. It again passes over in the evening at 22:35, 1.8 magnitude, almost identical but more westerly, west-southwest at 22:38, reaches its highest point again at 42 degrees, and then falls to the north-northwest. So it's kind of like a crisscross from the pass from earlier in the day. So let's see here. And then finally, I've got June, the last one, June 23rd. This one is, there's actually 3 passes. There's one at 3:32 a.m., another one at 5:04, but the best pass is in the evening, 0.5 magnitude at 21:36 out of the southwest, reaches its highest point almost directly overhead at 21:39 out of the northwest, then it falls at 21:43 to 10 degrees in the northeast. So there you have it. This information is provided by Heavens Above, and they've got some advertising. As if you're looking at the video, you can see they're on stuff to finance the site. Also includes information on amateur satellites and their passes. You don't need any special software to do that. All you need to do is put in your longitude and latitude at the heavens-above.com website and tell it to remember you, and you can go back. All of the information that I provide comes from me and where I live, which is in Louisville, which is pretty darn close to everybody else. And it does not require you to log in. It just uses a cookie. I'm sure they get lots of information from that as well. But in any case, it's a pretty decent way of finding things, and it's painless. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB5OZL. We're running just a little bit ahead, so I'll ask, does anyone have questions about anything tonight? Okay, do we have any final check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo Bravo 9, give me this, the rest of it, please.
Sierra Oscar Kilo, KB9 SOK.
KB9 SOK, Sean. Thanks and welcome to the net. Okay, tonight we had 26 hams participating on the air. Thank you all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:22 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 72 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But don't go away. We've got the Astronaut movie net coming up in a few minutes, and it's going to be a James Bond movie, Moonraker. So, Tom, what time do we want to start that?
We'll come back at 10:32. We'll give it an even 10 minutes. How's that? KE5I6.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL.
I hear that Moonraker is out of this world.
Yes, and it's scientifically accurate. This is WB5OZL.
If anybody is interested in being net control and speaking like a supervillain as net control, this is your opportunity. Let me know. This is KE5ICX. You might be the next supervillain net control.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, time's up, as Canadian Singh said. I don't know why, but, you know, and then Kirk blasted him out of the sky. Okay, this is the Afterglow Movie Net. I'll be net control because, golly, nobody said anything. Nobody checked in on the previous net. That is usual potential control. Anybody want to be net control this evening and an opportunity to speak like a supervillain, please come with your call now. Oh, crickets. Oh, well, you know, the supervillains always wear the coolest costumes before they get gobbled up by the volcano or some other terrible thing, or blasted into space, although the Drax Nibiru jacket probably didn't look all that good. It kind of clashed with the dark abode of space. All right, this is KE5ICX. I'll be your net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's Afterglow Movie Net is called Moonraker from 1979. This is, yes, you guessed it, from the James Bond series produced by Ian Productions and was the fourth to star Roger Moore as the fictional, oh boy, MI6 agent James Bond. It was the third and final film in the series to be directed by Louis Gilbert. Oh boy, I'm glad he left. It co-stars Louise Childs, Michael Lansdowne, Corinne Cleary, and everyone's favorite It's a Cookbook, Richard Kyle. Bond investigates the theft of the space shuttle, leading him to Hugo Drax, the owner of the shuttle's manufacturing firm. Along with space scientist Dr. Holly Goodhead, yeah, I said that was straight-faced, Bond follows the trail from California to Venice, Rio de Janeiro, the Amazon rainforest, not the Amazon plant, although it could have been, and finally into outer space to prevent a plot to wipe out the world population and recreate humanity with the master race, with a master race. I don't know. There's a footnote on this. I'm not sure what. The story was intended by author Ian Fleming to become a film even before he completed the novel in 1954. He based it on a screenplay manuscript he had devised earlier. The film's producers had originally intended to make For Your Eyes Only, but chose Moonraker owing to the rise of the science fiction genre in the wake of Star Wars. Budgetary issues led to the film being shot primarily in France. Other locations included Italy, Brazil, Guatemala, and the United States. The soundstage in Pinewood Studios in England, traditionally used for the series, were only used by the special effects teams. Moonraker had a high production cost of $34 million. How quaint. More than twice as much as The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977. And it received mixed reviews. However, the film's visual effects were praised by Derek Medlings, being nominated for an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, and it eventually became the highest-grossing film of the series at the time, with $210 million worldwide, a record that stood until 1995's GoldenEye. I could go into the script, the story. I'm going to read just the first two paragraphs because, golly, this is what everybody's going to be ranting about anyway. A Drax Industry Moonraker to the United Kingdom, I don't know, do they have a space program, is hijacked in midair while on the shuttle carrier aircraft at SCA. And yeah, it does look suspiciously like a retired American Airlines 747. The carrier is destroyed, but no wreckage of the shuttle is found. M, head of MI6, assigns James Bond, Agent 007, to investigate. En route to England, Bond is attacked and pushed out of an airplane by a mercenary assassin, Jaws, whom he previously met in The Spy Who Loved Me. He survives by stealing a parachute from the pilot while Jaws lands on a trapeze net within a circus tent. Oh, boy. Let's see, second paragraph. At the Drax Industries spaceplane manufacturing complex in California, Bond meets the owner of the company, Hugo Drax, and his henchman, Chang. Yeah, that guy. Bond also meets Dr. Holly Goodhead, an astronaut, and survives an assassination attempt while inside a centrifuge chamber. Drax's personal pilot, Corinne Dufour, sleeps with Bond and then helps Bond find blueprints for a glass vial made in Venice. Drax discovers her involvement and has her killed by his pet dogs. Do I need to go on? This is a paint-by-numbers James Bond film. Oh, let's skip to the end. Hold on. Yada, yada, yada. Rio Carnival, Sugarloaf cable car. Things happen. The cable car crashes. Jaws survives. They go to the Amazon jungle. They find some sort of moonraker lifting off from the jungle. Great. Then they find out as they get into orbit. Don't forget, we have an orbit thing, and the cap and 007 is on board. They have 5 moonrakers, maybe 6. Oh, they have the 6th moonraker because they had to steal the first one from the Space Shuttle one. And there's a radar jamming cloaking device on board, so nobody knows about this massive thing. Now, if anybody listened to what I was talking about with the, International Space Station going over and pilots thinking it's another aircraft, somehow or another, I can't imagine this massive thing that could pass as a Hilton hotel in space. Oh, that was 2001, now I think about it. At any rate, how could they not see it? Well, this rotating little piece of plastic that's on outside the spacecraft, outside of the space station, manages to prevent that. Even though they've got to launch, I don't know, bazillions of heavy lift rockets. Never mind, this is something we can discuss later. At any rate, Jaws turns and decides he's not going to eat people like in the cookbook, and instead decided to join 007. Everything's fine, finds his girlfriend, they go back to Earth. Bond ends up in space. Oh, I would love to do this joke over the air, but I can't do it because I'd probably get in trouble. But it's a funny joke. And Bond and Goodhead used Drax's laser-armed Moonraker 5 to destroy 3 launch globes that have a bunch of stuff on board that's going to kill everybody on Earth. It is revealed that Jaws and Dolly, who ejected themselves in one of Drax's escape pods after toasting with a bottle of champagne, are being recovered by the Marines. Bond's superiors get a video of the Moonraker 5 and are bemused to see Bond and Goodhead in space. That's not what it says, but that's what I'm going to say. Okay, so how does this net go and what do we do? Well, it's very simple. We actually ask for check-ins. Yes, we do. And then we ask them where they're at, their call sign, where they are located, their QTH, their name, and then whether they saw this moon or not, movie or not. Moon. Funny. In any case, if you did, that's fine. If you haven't, that's okay. If you haven't seen it in a million years, that's fine because we just brought you up to date on this film. Otherwise, even if you didn't see the movie, we'll ask you the question, do you want to see this movie? Which is always a good question. We go 3 rounds, unless you tell me your short time, and I know at least one of you will do that because it's short attention span. But everybody else can stick for the long run. The first round is talking about the plot. What did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? What was good? What was bad? How did it work out? Did you believe what you saw? Did you disbelieve what you thought you could have seen? And, of course, it's a Bond film, so how does it compare with every other Bond film? This second round is talking about the characterizations. Do the characters stand up? Are they worth discussing? Do you believe what they do? Are supervillains as supervillainish as they should be? In this case, Drax. And then thirdly, which we're getting into the late night and people are falling asleep, that's the one where we ask about special effects. Did they stand up? Was the music great? Could you stay awake during the entire film? And if you did, what did you think made you stay awake? Was it the music? Was it anything else for that matter? And then finally, if there's anything beyond that, if we go that far, which is possible, we'll go ahead and ask the question, anything your heart desires. And at the very end, we reveal what the next movie will be next week. So we'll go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. We will start with your call sign, phonetically please, your name, your location if you'd like, but definitely, did you see Moonraker from 1979? Let's go ahead and get started. Check-ins, please.
Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs. Frank in Flower Mound, and yes, I saw the movie. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, Whiskey J near Weatherford, and I've seen the film.
Kilo India 5, Papa Whiskey November, Tom in Plano, and I've seen the film.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I have seen the film.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving, yes, I've seen the film.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto, yes, I've seen it.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas, yes, I've seen it.
Alpha India 5, Delta Yankee, Alpha India 5, Delta Yankee, Garland, Texas. Name is Phil, and seen the movie several times. Just recently got done watching it about 6 months ago.
Rusty. Movie, KF5PWN, that's... welcome, Tom. You saw the movie. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. N5BB, Mr. Bill in Irving. By the way, you did a great net this evening. Yes, he saw the movie. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto. Yep, she saw the movie. And W5EBB, David in Dallas. Yes, he saw the movie. I'll take another round of check-ins. No, you do not have to have seen the movie, but you could be asked to say, would you watch this movie? So if you're out there and you just want to check in, that's okay too. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from, and did you see Moonraker from 1979? Please go ahead.
AI 5, Delta Yankee, Alpha India 5, Delta Yankee in Garland. Name is Bill. Seen the movie several times and just saw it 6 months ago.
All right, we picked up one. Bill, AI5DY over in Garland. Yes, you saw the movie, and welcome aboard. We will come to you, back to you here in a little bit. All right, I'm going to do something really snazzy and different. I'm just going to go in order of check-in, so here we go. KG5ZNJ, Frank, Zombies Need Job over in Flower Mound. You saw the movie. Your thoughts on the plot? Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Well, this is Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs. Well, this is by far my favorite of all the Bond movies, really because of the fact that it's by far the most ridiculous out of all of them, with something outrageous happening probably every 45 seconds. And the other reason why I like this movie so much is I have a personal connection to it, which I will explain. So this movie, the book was written by, obviously, Ian Fleming, and yeah, that's his name, I think, the author. And during World War II, he worked with, while he was in the service, the real Mr. Drax, which was Reginald Drax, Admiral Reginald Drax. And he was a very famous aristocrat who owned the very famous Charlesborough House in England, which was a big country estate, very famous. Very similar to, what is it, Downton Abbey, that show, kind of that situation. And he was young at the time, but Drax was. He was about 25 years old, so this is going back in time to the late 1800s or early 1900s. And unfortunately, my great-grandfather worked for Mr. Drax, and he had worked for his father, who was John Plunkett, the 17th Baron of Dunsany, and my great-grandfather lived on that estate and worked for that family. And anyways, the old man died, and Reginald Drax took over at the age of about 25, and he and my great-grandfather could not stand each other. And my grandfather was born on that estate, by the way, so he took the family, and they immigrated to Canada, and the rest is history. And anyways, I don't really know why he named the character in the movie after him, but I think he was poking fun at him. They were friends, but apparently he was bullied by Mr. Drax quite a lot as an admiral, and he liked him and he hated him, so kind of like my grandfather. Anyways, I'll leave the rest of it to you guys. I just wanted to tell that fascinating story about me and why I like that movie so much. Back to you, Tom, KG5ZNJ.
Well, thank you, Frank, and that is really interesting. You lost me about the whole family connection and everything, and great-grandfathers and everything. So, but at any rate, I'm very happy that you have that connection, and the family had to hightail it out of England and to Canada. So that explains a lot, but it's good. It's good. And now you'll run off and you won't tell us anything else, because now you've name-dropped your entire family and you're somehow related or otherwise about to be assassinated by a supervillain in a movie, which is a whole new territory for you, Frank. I'm proud of you. And I'm very excited to find out what happens next in your life. You had to move out of Canada, didn't you? Because they had the super missiles focused on you somewhere in the Great White North. Okay, well, you can't say anything because I'm net control. You could have been net control, but you're not, so I get to do what I want. So next up is Jay, KG5BZW, Jay, near Weatherford. Jay, your thoughts on this very complex plot for the movie Moonraker from 1979. This is KE5ICX. Jay, please go ahead with your comments on plot.
This is KU5BZW. Okay, sorry, I had to listen to myself through echoing here. It's so very James Bond, and at the same time, it's almost, there's so many comedic elements to it. It doesn't really take itself that seriously. It takes itself seriously enough to be let's call it I don't know what to call it. A James Bond film. I would just call it that. It's not Casino Royale like the original. What was that, Woody Allen? I can't remember. But that's beside the point. It's so over the top and silly, but it knows it's silly, and so it's not a nudge and a wink and like, yeah, this is silly. We know it. You know it, but enjoy it. And that's kind of how I felt about the film. It is fun. It's just I've always seen it as pretty silly. Oh my gosh, this president. The Space Marines are that's that scene. That's funny. It's fun. It's one of those things that's like, I don't want to critique it because it is pretty fun, even if it's, like the they can't see that space station? Yeah, sure. Anyway, it's, and there are things you could critique about, but I mean, Jaws is superhuman. He's not a real, exactly human, buy through cabling like all of that, but whatever, it's fun. That's all I can say. KG5BGW.
All right, very good, Jay. Thank you. We'll be back later. I got next is KI5PWN. That's Tom in Plano. You saw the movie. What do you think about the plot for Moonraker from 1979 from KE5ICX?
Well, thanks, Tom. Yeah, so I actually did watch this movie, and in fact, during the COVID period last year, when I realized that I wasn't going back to work for quite a long time, I set it a goal to watch every James Bond movie that was ever made. So I've watched all 27 James Bond movies within the past 12 months. So in doing that, I'd be able to rank, all the James Bond movies from 1 to 27 and rank even the actors who played James Bond and the actresses that played the First Ladies. Rank the best stunts and stuff. And what I realized is you really can't put them in numerical order. You got to compare them to each other, but you can't really rank them 1 through 27. But you can put them in the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And I'll be frank, Moonraker for me definitely falls probably in the bottom third or the bottom third of James Bond movies. I really didn't like it. It might have been a better movie if it was a standalone movie and wasn't associated with the James Bond films. But yeah, it was way too off the walls for me. I thought the plot was thin. Usually James Bond has a reason to go to exotic places. He's trying to find a clue or trying to do something, but there wasn't really any reason for him to go to Italy or the other places that he went to, and it didn't seem like he was chasing the bad guy. The bad guy was always kind of following him or just kind of showed up at the exotic locations Bond was at. And the bottom line is, that they really ruined for me the Jaws thing. Jaws was when he played in the previous film, he was terrifying. He was rough and big and, had the steel teeth and all that. But they kind of made him into a cartoon, and that relationship that he had with Dolly, honestly, it was way over the top. They really, I think, ruined the film by kind of making a joke out of a bad guy that could have been a whole lot more. I will tell you the two things that I liked, and probably the only thing that is in the top third of James Bond movies for me was the opening action scene, that parachute scene, up until the point where they made it ridiculous with Jaws going through the circus tent. But the beginning of that action film with him jumping off the airplane was that was fantastic. That's probably in one of my top 10s of all James Bond opening scenes. And then there was another scene with the dove hunting that somebody will probably talk about a little bit later, but where he went dove hunting and it looked like he missed the dove and it kind of turned on you. It was actually a pretty good shot. That was a good scene as well. So I'll save some other comments for later. This is KI5PWN.
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you for those comments. Boy, I don't disagree, but I'm gonna hold off on my comments. By the way, anybody who's watching the stream, I have a picture of Reginald Almer Ranfully Plunkett, born August 28, 1880. Compliments of Frank. Zombies need jobs. And then there's also a picture of the original estate here as well. It's a little more modest. It only has like 50 bedrooms in it, but it looks similar to the one from the movie, sans the space shuttle. So if you see those things, by all means, you'll see. He's apparently part of royalty or knows royalty or the, distinguished people. So at any rate. Okay, next up is Tony, NT5TM. I know Tony loved this movie, and he loves lightweight James Bond films. So he's going to give us a glorious and wonderfully upbeat version of his interpretation of this movie. So Tony, NT5TM, tell us all you loved about Moonraker from 1979 from KE5ICX.
Well, I realized that I hadn't had a Ramos Gin Fizz in a long time, and this movie provided a wonderful pretext for making one. It continues an interesting tradition that was established way back when in Goldfinger in the Connery era. In the very first James Bond movie, James Bond is always trying his best to catch the villain and protect the bystanders and solve the mystery. But then when they got to writing Goldfinger, they seem to have had an inspiration that James Bond could do more to advance the plot by being stupid. And throughout the rest of the franchise, they would occasionally switch back and forth between James Bond is very clever and tough fighter and is trying his best, to James Bond is just wandering around wondering what will happen to him next. This is very much a James Bond is wondering what will happen to him next. In Goldfinger, he knows that Ulrich Goldfinger wants to kill him, but he's perfectly willing to recline in a chair on the estate and enjoy a drink, because it wouldn't be sporting to kill him during his afternoon drink. Likewise, in Moonraker, which, yes, I would definitely place in the bottom third of Bond movies, Bond is, he's been chased down a river, almost over a waterfall. People have been trying to kill him, shooting giant exploding things at him. Really rather stressful. It's pretty clear they want him dead. And he's wandering through the jungle, no water, no supplies, dressed out of place in a suit. And he just notices a beautiful woman randomly wandering through the jungle and says, "Oh, I'll follow her. Oh, she's going to the villain's lair. He's only trying to kill me. I'll just wander in there and see what happens next." So that same plot strategy from Goldfinger of Bond just kind of wandering around, wondering what would happen next, got reused over and over again, now and then, not every film. And here we have another one. So, yep, I have nothing specifically to add about all the wonderful comments we've had about, Jaws and family connections and all those cool things. But I just wanted to point out that through line of that kind of type B James Bond plot where Bond just goes off and lets things happen. This was one of those. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks for those comments. Let's see here. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your comments on the movie Moonraker and the plot. WB50ZL from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
This is WB50ZL. Of course, I saw it first run way back when, and I've seen it a couple of times since. I've always been a big James Bond fan. I don't know why. They're so predictable and silly and just unlikely, but that's okay. I still love them. Cartoonish as they are, James Bond is the luckiest man in the world. He gets a girl in every scene. He lives through these adventures that would kill almost anybody else, and gets in terrible danger and just dusts himself off and carries on. I know for so many years, everybody wanted to be James Bond because he has such an amazing life, not like our own mundane and boring and routine lives. He had a life of excitement, and that's the appeal of these movies is you can have a little respite from your own boring life by watching these and living through them. This movie came out in '79, and the first shuttle launched in '81. So we hadn't even seen a shuttle hardly. So there's pictures and prototypes that, at the time that was kind of exciting to see this spaceship that we didn't even have yet. They played loose with the facts, of course. But that's okay. If you had to stick to science, you could never make a James Bond movie. It just wouldn't happen. So, okay, that's all I've got to say about this WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. And it's interesting. Frank's over here sending me more family memorabilia like signet rings and I don't know. It's the signet ring, the Drax signet ring. No shuttle thing on it, so I'm not sure why that matters. And royalty wearing the same signet ring and pinky stuff, and I don't know. He seems to. Well, I'm glad he's back and on parole. But he keeps sending me all this, European, never mind. Anyway, okay, David, W5EBB. David, I know you have a detailed thing and charts and graphs and shuttle trajectories and character motivations and story development and all of that. So we'll leave it to you. You've got to help us make sense of this movie. W5EVB from KE5ICX. Go ahead, David.
Well, I agree that this had the feel of a episode of the TV Batman show, where you've got the Batman and the Joker. And Drax in this is really very much akin to the Joker in his dialogue. Very cheesy lines, but funny. I mean, this is a tongue-in-cheek Bond film, it seems. It's sort of poking fun at itself, and it really is not to be taken seriously. It's all about the visuals and the one-liners, I think. So in 1979, when this movie was released, the notion of a private company space mogul like a Hugo Drax was far-fetched. There was no privatization of space. Companies like Rockwell, Lockheed, McDonnell Douglas, Martin Marietta bid for contracts for government customers like the Air Force, NASA, CIA, NSA. Fast forward 42 years later, now that notion of privatization of space and multi-billionaire space moguls is firmly entrenched with the likes of Richard Branson and, of course, Elon Musk. Now I can imagine David Letterman introducing Elon Musk to Hugo Drax. Elon Hugo, Hugo Elon. Elon Hugo, Hugo Elon. Now you can draw an analogy. Remember analogies? A is to B as C is to D. Apple is to fruit as carrot is to vegetable. Elon Musk is to Starlink satellites as Hugo Drax is to nerve toxin satellites. Starlight satellite deployment is to global internet as nerve toxin satellite deployment is to global human extermination. See what fun analogies can be? I miss them. So this rare orchid was found to be the cause of the extermination of an advanced civilization in Brazil. Apparently they were advanced because they knew how to build pyramids. Now it turned out the pollen in these orchids was causing sterility. And while they look pretty, in retrospect, they probably weren't the best choice to give as a Mother's Day bouquet. Now, of course, if their race was so advanced, they would have performed reproductive toxicity tests to ensure that the pollen in these orchids wasn't biologically active, perhaps settling in the ovaries or other organs with possible long-term side effects. And it would just be due diligence and common sense to perform those tests. But they're so pretty, all purpley, what possible harm could they cause? So something's kind of weird. There's a Mandela effect here. In the scene where the blonde Pippi Longstocking Dolly runs up to help pull Jaws out of the rubble, and he looks down and smiles at her with his big metal mouth, and she looks up at him and smiles amidst a crescendo from Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet fantasy overture. It's love at first sight. But I remember the scene differently when I saw the movie, and a lot of other people apparently do too, in that when she smiles, she's wearing braces, the big metal kind. That's what I remember, and that was the basis for their immediate attraction, and it made for a very funny scene, complete with audio and visual gags. Now, I don't know why I'm misremembering that scene. Maybe my synapses are cross-referencing and connecting to a different movie with a similar scene. Or maybe I've skipped a groove in the historical record and I'm now in a completely different reality timeline compared to when I first saw the movie. While then, that may not be Occam's razor answer, Jodie Foster might agree, and it would help explain a lot. W5EBB.
Thank you, David. And you know what? You may be right. You may be right. Well, I'll make my comments in a little bit here. Next up is AIY. That's Bill over in Garland. And yes, he saw the movie, and he's over on Echolink. So, Bill, please go ahead. Your comments on the plot for Moonraker from 1979 from KE5ICX.
Thank you. I just kind of echo what everybody else has maybe just kind of said. It did have a lot of good one-liners. I subjected my family to it when it was on and we were first under the COVID lockdown, and subjected them to other fun science fiction movies. And so looking forward to see what we're going to get subjected to for next week. I'm on Echolink, so hopefully my audio is okay. I've been listening to you guys for a couple weeks and have really enjoyed it. AI5 Delta Yankee, back to the net.
All right, well, thank you, Bill, and thanks for checking in and making your presence known. We always like that sort of thing. Yes, it starts at 10:30 in the evening, at 10:30 net, and goes to midnight, typically. So it's a long night, and you can check in for as long or as little as you can, but you can never leave. You know how that goes. But in any case, thanks for checking in, and we'll check on you the next round. If you're there, that's fine. If not, that's okay. That's the way things are, especially late at night. And next week is field day, so I have a feeling a few people will be up. They may just check in because they can. Number 9 on the list is Chaz, KF5JHA. He keeps telling me it's past his bedtime, but he's there, and he's a star. Chaz, I know you want to say everything you can about this movie because it's your favorite science fiction, science fact movie ever made. So, Chaz, KF5JHA, your words of wisdom regarding Moonraker from 1979.
Oh, yeah, no, not my favorite one. The Star Wars series is my favorite movie. I don't know which one is best. Hold on, I got an entry. Sketchy. Is that better? I'm listening to myself over echoing. Yeah, that sounds better. Okay, now, you've got to understand, it's a simple plot. Every movie's the same. The world is either going to get hurt, destroyed, or blackmailed. And James Bond saves it. That's it. That's the plot. There's nothing else to it. Now, there's some overarching themes to this. One is that James Bond bets almost any female that's in the movie. Okay, that's one. But probably the most fun thing about it is all the gadgets that he has. Come on, most of the guys, they like all the gadgets that are in these movies. We love gadgets, don't we? So, each one is a little bit different. Now, one thing I want you to go back and watch this movie and realize that 7-Up appears, I believe, in 4 different scenes. How much money did 7-Up pay to be in those 4 scenes? Anyway, going to space is a fun thing to do. Is this all believable? No. I like what Brenda was saying. Of course, the real space shuttle didn't launch for a couple of years after this movie was made, so that was kind of interesting. All right, I guess that's enough. I'm going to let it go back to our net control. KE5ICX. That would be Mr. Tom. Have a good night, everyone. KF5JHA.
Very good. Thank you, Jazz, and thanks for all you do for the Skynet. It's most appreciated. And I messed up, and this wasn't intentional, but my handwriting is terrible. But Bill, N5BB, who is at the position 5 in the check-ins, I skipped over. This was not intentional, Bill. Somehow or another, I missed you. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you to go ahead with your comments on the plot. Yeah, we're at plot. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. And you'll be at position 5, so be ready. Don't run to the bathroom or anything, because you'll be back on shortly. So, N5BB, your thoughts on Moonraker. Boy, I tell you what, it's just crazy. Your thoughts on Moonraker and the story from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. Yeah, I turned off the radar jamming device so you could tell I was here. So, what can I say? This was a very Albert Broccoli-style James Bond 007 movie. And it's obvious that the tongue was in the cheek of these script writers. So let me quote Drax. Bond, you defy all my attempts to plan an amusing death for you. You know, there's so many times that you nearly hope that Drax will just get somebody, he'll just say, just kill him, and they'll just shoot Bond or something. But no. And of course, they never strip him and take away his weapons, or they aren't successful at doing that long term. So there's so many little Easter eggs in this movie. So as you may or may not know, Steven Spielberg actually volunteered to be the director of this movie. It was, they were starting work on it right after he finished Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But Broccoli decided not to use Spielberg. However, if you notice, when they go into the laboratory, when they put in the code, what does it come back with? It comes back with the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba tones from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And you actually hear that twice in the movie, the 2 times they enter. There's some other, wild things in it. I mean, how many space stations that are rotating would you have an emergency stop button? Where everybody falls over. I mean, to tell you the truth, that was very funny in one sense. It was just such a... They didn't have to put that in there, but it was so funny. Did you notice that at a key point in this, what does, I think it's Drax say, open the cargo doors? Now, he doesn't ask how to do it, but he does say, open the cargo doors. Also, at some point, somebody says, a giant step for mankind. And there's a movie from one of the, is it Goodback? No, it's one of the Italian spaghetti westerns is used in the movie when they go to, and they're dressed up in those western-looking garb in the movie. There's a lot of other interesting, Easter egg kind of things in the movie, which I thought were very funny. What else do I have to say about the plot? It's a typical Bond plot. It's got exotic locations. They're racing boats. That's in several of the movies. With crazy weapons. There's a lot of pretty young women in skimpy clothes, and the villains are very, very, very bad. They want to kill all mankind or do something else very drastic. And, of course, there's a lot of very funny jokes, in addition to the ones I mentioned, that are kind of hidden in the dialogue if you listen carefully. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. And this, by the way, is the first time I've actually seen the whole movie. I'd seen outtakes from it, but this is the first time I saw the whole thing. I think it was great. In fact, BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. You brought up some good points. I have some comments to expand on that just a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and ask, are there any additional check-ins tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net? We're talking about Moonraker, the 1979 James Bond film, when James Bond gets launched into space. Does anybody else want to join us this evening? Please come to the call sign name. If you want to let me know where you're transmitting from, that's cool. Let me know if you saw Moonraker. Please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo. Sean in Fort Worth? Yes, I seen the movie.
All right, we picked one more up. That's KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. He's done with his late night traffic net stuff, and he did see the movie. Oh, and by the way, Chaz says that the tones, play the 5 tones from Close Encounters was played 3 times in this movie, not 2. So I guess opening that door was 3 times. Okay, Sean, KB9SOK, your thoughts on the plot for Moonraker? Well, no, that's cold. Well, never mind. Go ahead. You can put in any title and use that music. Sean, go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, as Bill mentioned, I kind of looked at the movie the same way, actually. I thought it was quite funny. The jokes and find all the little hidden things. And, yeah, that's kind of how I seen it, too. I didn't really take this too seriously. And I think the Bond films are, it's one of those things, either you like them or you don't. For instance, my father absolutely hated these movies. he kept saying, these things aren't realistic at all. Which they're not, obviously. But that's kind of what makes it fun. As it's been mentioned, people watch Bond movies for certain things. Obviously for the nice scenery, and then obviously for the puns that are throughout the movie, typically, especially in the Roger Moore era. Then obviously for the over-the-top action scenes, and then the gadgets. I remember each movie, I was curious to see what kind of out-of-this-world gadget they were going to have. So yeah, you can't take any of the Bond films too seriously. In recent years, they have tried to make them more grounded and more serious, and to me that, I kind of like it, but at the same time, to me it kind of took the fun out of the movies, because they just never took them seriously. And yeah, it's definitely over the top. But yeah, the scene that was talked about earlier with the girl with the braces, yes, when they did the Blu-ray upgrade and remastering of it, for some reason they took that out. And I think it had something to do along the lines of, and it's been a long time since I looked at this or read about it, so please don't quote me on this, but I think it has something to do with the fact that they afraid that it made her look too young. But yeah, I specifically remember that scene as well, and I remember when I watched on the Blu-ray that it's like, wait a minute, that's not right. So yeah, you're dead on that scene. But yeah, it's, like, and as was mentioned earlier, I thought it was cool that they did the Close Encounters tones, and then they had the, several other, and I thought the shuttle was nice at that time because, like it was mentioned, at that time it was just experimental, so I thought it was interesting that they, took a little bit of what was actually coming and tried to incorporate it, even though the rest of it was nonsense. But, yeah, is it one of the greatest science films of all time? Of course not, but I still think it was fun. Back to Net Control, this is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. I'm going to try and make sure I don't forget you because I moved you to page 2 with notes and everything. So I'm going to put an arrow after Chaz, JJ, if he's still awake later on, and then go to you after that. If I miss you, it's my fault, and yell at me if I do. Okay, my thoughts on the movie. First off, I want to give you a little kind of a situational thing. In 1979, when this movie came out, I was up in New York City, and it was my first trip to New York City in 1979. So I was there to see the shows and everything, and it was particularly hot that day. I think it was July or August that I went. I have to go back and see if I can figure it out. And so I walked all around Manhattan. I was too cheap and a kid, and I didn't want to spend money on a cab, and I didn't know how much to tip anyway. So I just walked around, went down the Village, back up, through Broadway and all that. Around Broadway there was a theater, and the movie had just come out. I think it had come out on Wednesday, and this was a Friday or a Saturday. So I thought, well, I can cool off and watch this new film, and I don't have to walk around anymore. I can sit in a chair someplace. So I did, and watched the film there with a New York audience in an ancient theater somewhere near Broadway, and I enjoyed it. I watched the film, and I was trying to make sense of it. As was mentioned earlier, and exactly what Sean had said is that the shuttle had not flown yet. So seeing a shuttle taking off in the film and being the space geek that I am, I thought was pretty cool. And I thought the effects were pretty darn good as far as they look, based on what I'd seen from, the Gemini and Apollo missions that I remember. So they were pretty realistic and convincing, but that's another part of this whole thing. The other part of the story is that, all right, let's get down to brass tacks. Supervillains have unlimited amounts of money. Elon Musk is a supervillain. Let's face it, he is. All he needs is the Nehru jacket, but he doesn't have one yet. But the thing is, he's doing everything in plain sight. All the supervillains that we all know and love, with little cats and other things, and, sharks with lasers and all of that, this is all done on the QT. It's not known. How they build these massive things that are underwater, or in this case in space, without people noticing, is just kind of amazing. The other part that's kind of weird through the whole thing is that we have to steal a shuttle. The shuttle, would it take 15 years to build the International Space Station using shuttles? And a few accidents along the way? Yet somehow Drax is able to, because of his pedigree, and as Frank keeps talking about, super genius, is able to launch all this stuff. Nobody notices it. Nobody sees it flying overhead. Nothing happens except for that little 2-bit little spinning radar thing that keeps it out of people's, view. Well, that's fine on radar, but what about the guy with the scientist in the white jacket at Mount Palomar looking up and like, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Here, have a hamburger. And they go to the commissary down on level 1. How can you keep that a secret? that way. You know, one of the things I always like to say, too, is that, you know, when you're building your super villain lair, in this case, let's say you're putting it on top of inside of a volcano, or you're putting it underneath the sea. Somewhere or another, you got these big semi-trucks, and they're driving through town, some little hamlet somewhere, and people are going, well, what's that? And they say, it's just a new guy. He's got a little house, 2-bedroom over on the right side of the road. He's adding an addition, and then they bring in the intercontinental ballistic missiles and the tanks and the nuclear materials and the solar cells and all of this, and they're just driving down this hamlet, and they're all sitting in the pub, and the bottles are vibrating around as these major trucks come through. You think it's the same guy? No, they're building a Walmart just up the road. Oh, okay. And everything's fine. How do people not notice this stuff? It happens all the time, you know? And this is another example, only now it's in orbit, and every city, every country sees it as it floats through space. Well, no, they don't, because that little 2-bit antenna is preventing them from seeing it. The rockets? Who knows? Nobody notices the rockets. Okay. Let's see. Other parts of it, and maybe this falls into characterizations. There's a lot of, and I always kind of get, nasty about it. It's the self-aware part. One thing that actually works, I think, with humor is that you don't play it as humor. You play it straight. And Roger Moore never really played it straight. I don't know. It's a very, very thin line. And, when you look at the original Bond, whose name escapes me, it's getting late at night. Yes, I know you're shouting at me who it is. He never deviated from the role. He was always business. And yes, he would say something, he'd relax and act in ways that allowed for you to believe that the character might exist. But when you stop that, and the double entendres just come thick like they do with Roger Moore, you realize that he's not going to play it straight. So that takes you out of the situation, and I guess I'm advancing ahead. But for the overall plot and the overall story and the way it's written, it just doesn't quite have and ring true, and it does fall into that lower third or lower quarter as far as the story goes. You're just not going to buy into it. Let me see, one other thing. Why is it, and I'm, smacking my fist on the desk, why do all super space stations, why are they all gigantic? They're gigantic. How the heck you've got tons of people up there. Nobody gets missed, Well, Joe didn't come to work today. Well, they blasted him into space. And Joe and his entire team of Joes, people there, they're all up in space. When will they be back? Well, they're not coming back. Doesn't anybody notice this? How about the families? What about the families? What do these people think? They don't show up for birthday parties and things like that. They don't send out the cops to find out what happens. How the heck do you get this many people, hundreds of people, either to work for you? What do you do, the Daily Shopper or something? And these people just show up and say, I'm interested in going into space, and I like popcorn. Okay, fine, we got popcorn. Just jump on that spacecraft over there. There's 6 of them that nobody notices, and we're going to blast you into space. Not to mention the construction teams that have to build all this stuff, which I mentioned earlier, I guess. So I did mention it. All right, I'm going to stop right now because I don't understand how you can do that. Hard hats in space. This is KE5ICX. I'm at control because nobody else wanted to be a supervillain tonight. Talking about the movie Moonraker from 1979. So I'm going to go to the top of the list since nobody else would check in. And we'll start with Frank. And now we'll talk about characterization. What do you got to say about characterization, if there was any? KG5ZNJ from KE5ICX. The movie Moonraker from 1979. Go ahead, Frank.
This is KG5ZNJ. Well, this movie is full of great characters, and it's really great henchmen and supervillains. The guy playing Drax, I mean, right at the start, he's playing the piano, and if you look close, his hands aren't even touching the keys. They're just kind of floating there. And, they just show how rich and opulent this guy is. He's a super billionaire. And, the first thing he says to Roger Moore is, "May I press you for a cucumber sandwich, Mr. Bond?" It's like you'd expect him to have some outrageous caviar at least, right? Like not a cucumber sandwich. And, God, and the hunting scene, and this, it's just hilarious. And, his henchman number one, I guess he was Japanese, I don't know. That character to me was so funny, and it's just like that evil smile he has when he's turning the dial up on, on the G-force centrifuge. I can't stop laughing it's just the look on his face is so priceless. It's just like this, like an evil laugh kind of look. It's just so funny, and of course, Jaws. I mean, it doesn't get any more ridiculous than Jaws. I mean, that is just absolutely over the top. When he bites the cable on the cable car, and yet it doesn't really do much. Like I would have thought maybe that the car would have fallen if the cable was severed. And he's strong enough to hold back the entire machine works of this massively powerful cable car system, and it just goes on and on and on. But the super villains or henchmen or whatever you want to call them, they're great. Even down to the guy in the coffin with the throwing knives in Venice. I mean, he rises up like what was that movie, Halloween? Like the upper body just rises right out of the coffin, and out come the knives, and he starts throwing them. It couldn't be more ridiculous, hence more excellent. So I just love that movie. I don't know what other good characters. I don't know. I mean, there's so many. Anyways, that's what I have to say about the wonderful characters of this fine film. KG5 Zombies Need Jobs. Back to you, Mr. Tom.
Okay, Frank. Well, I'll take them as I see them. But you remember, don't forget, TV Ontario. This movie is not to be copied. It was right on the bottom of the screen. So while I was copying the movie, I turned it off because I didn't want the RCMP to arrest me. And I bet you they had special, license to kill and go across the border and take me away, eh? Okay, next is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, tell us about characterization for Moonraker from 1979 from KE5ICX.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Given the fact that everything is already over top ridiculous, it's kind of hard to comment on the characters. There's Kang, and there's Drax, and Jaws, and oh gosh. Kang was just so incompetent. I don't know. That was too bad in terms of ridiculousness, in my opinion. I don't know. I guess there's a bet for, I don't know. I just don't know. Roger Moore played Roger Moore's Bond, which I kind of disagree. I don't know. It's one of those things where there's a problem with James Bond being serious. If there's going to be humor involved, I honestly think Moore's approach. Although I guess Sean Connery, when he was playing in that other film where James Bond is basically stupid, I suppose Sean, I think it was Sean, still played Sean, but I mean, it's hard to really. It's one of those things. Like I feel like to really break down these aspects of this film, it's like you have to break down how humor works, and when you analyze humor, it doesn't become funny anymore, you know. And but sometimes that's not strictly true, of course, but it can be true. Memory set. So it's one of those things. I'm not quite sure how to go about with some of these characters. The women in there, of course, the stock pretty women. There's Dr. Goodhead, which actually I thought she was fair. Mostly, I mean, for a Bond hero, I thought she was okay. I don't really have words to describe beyond okay here. It's just a bit hard to really discuss, in my opinion. Just I don't know. It's a comedy that isn't supposed to be taken seriously, but when you analyze it like this, it's almost like it forces it being serious. And I was like, I don't want that. That being said, it's not my favorite. It's definitely not my favorite. It's better, a lot better than the films where, and I'm going back to the films. Let me read that one more time. There are James Bond films where, the actor is so totally serious, but everything's still over the top because it's James Bond, and I just I tend to not really like those James Bond films just because, I don't know, I like the little bit of levity that Roger Moore seems to add. John, Satan, I almost feel like to talk about the film we got to talk about compared to other James Bonds and which James Bond actor was the best and blah blah blah. I will say the other Casino Royale, the real Casino Royale, that Daniel Craig, I love that one. Even though, yeah, it's still over the top. I did get to watch it recently. Probably also due to the coronavirus thing, or at least I saw part of it. And yeah, there's still over the top stuff with that, but Daniel Craig, just, I don't know, he's one of my favorites, James Bond. Oh, yeah, now I'm talking about aircraft. So, I'm sorry. I guess I've said my say on the characters. KG5BZW.
All right, thank you, Jay. I'm over here with Back Channel with Frank and Human Resources. Very strange conversation. Next up is Tom, KI5PWN. Tom, your thoughts on the characterization in this film? There's like 50 people in it, so you got to have something to say, good or bad, or something about this cast. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, I've got some notes I took when I was watching it the last time about the characters and the actors, and there's not a lot of coherent thought here. But the one note that stands out to me is that I wrote down is that they turned Jaws into Shrek. You know, they had Jaws from The Spy Who Loved Me, who was it was an awesome character. I mean, it was over the top, true, but he was a dangerous guy, and he did incredible things because he's got steel teeth. And in this movie, in Moonraker, they took somebody like that, which was a great character, a great actor for the role. I mean, that's a perfect person for that role. And they completely ruined it, in my opinion, by turning him into basically a Shrek character. And he falls in love like some sort of cartoon fantasy thing, a cartoon fairy tale. And like I mentioned during the plot scene, that kind of ruined the whole movie for me. On a better note, the guy that played the bad guy, Michael Lonsdale, he actually was a pretty good bad guy. In a lot of ways, he was like James Bond. He was eloquent, well-spoken, pretty much educated. And one of the interesting things to me is the most memorable lines that come out of Moonraker weren't spoken by James Bond, they were spoken by Drax. Most of the lines where people repeat from Moonraker are coming from Drax's comments and not from James Bond. Roger Moore did an alright job. I mean, it wasn't the greatest role I think he played in James Bond movies, so it was just average. The actress that played Dr. Goodhead, I think she did a good job, and it doesn't happen very often in James Bond movies, but she actually played a pretty critical role in defeating Drax, because she kind of turned into Bond's equal near the end of the movie, is actually flying the space shuttle, so she's piloting the plane and had a pretty major role in solving the crime at the end, or, solving the defeating Drax. So, so my main comments as far as characterization really deal with what they did to Jaws from one movie to the next movie. They completely changed his character, and like I said, they turned Jaws into Shrek. This is KI5PWN.
Thank you, Tom. Good analysis. I like that a lot. Let's see, next up is NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on Moonraker and characterization from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Sometimes I have to argue the music is a character. In this movie, it's funny how Bond's handlers really just seem to keep sending him from one place to another. Go to Venice, go to the jungle, go here, go there, fly into space. So we need an honorary, in addition to the other 50 characters, an honorary character to represent all of the different locations, maybe one each, because there are just so many of them. It's a quick world tour by Bond movie. It's kind of amusing. Yes, I did like Dr. Goodhead. They often give Bond way too many improbable skills. But it kind of made sense to have the rocket scientist who had worked on developing these space shuttles being the one who actually understood how these space shuttles worked. It's unusual for a Bond movie to make that much sense, and it did. It was a little disappointing that Drax just didn't look anything like Elon Musk. They're both Caucasian men. It would have been a beautiful, accidental, artistic coincidence, but no, it was not to be. So that was a bit of characterization we didn't get. Other than that, yes, campy, fun, goofy, a good movie not to watch entirely sober, a great popcorn flick. I watched most of this last night and ate a ton of popcorn with it, which was a great choice. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. You give a thumbs up on the tongue-in-cheek. That's fine, and that works. Let's see. Next up is Bill. I'm not going to skip you this time. I don't know what the hell happened last time. But N5VV, Bill, your thoughts on Moonraker and characterization from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Very good, Tom. This is N5BB. First, I just want to be very clear. Dolly, who was Brax's girlfriend, was not wearing braces. Not just in the print we saw, but in all prints of the movie. She never was. A lot of people remember her as wearing braces, but there were a lot of other spoofs and things that came out in the later years and commercials that had actresses with braces on, and it was misremembering. No, she did not have braces. As far as the characterization, Roger Moore is the Roger Moore Bond. He's different from other Bonds before and after him. But again, in this movie, Roger Moore played to a T the Roger Moore Bond. If you ever saw the what was the name of it? He played this character of Simon Templeton, the not the angel, but the saint. And this was kind of a separate, similar character. It's one of these. It's Roger Moore. Anyway, Lewis Charles is Holly Goodhead. Oh, by the way, just like in most of these Bond movies, they have some female character names which are just barely what they could get away with. And there's a couple of those in every movie. Anyway, Lewis Childs, I thought she did a good job. She, to me, acted like a smart woman that could be an astronaut and could do all those things and could fight with the best of them. And I think she did a good job doing that. The other characters were fine also, I thought. I mean, Chang, Toshida Suga, the guy that played Chang, the original henchman that did all the bad stuff for Drex before Bond shot him out of the tree. He did a very good job, I thought. And, of course, Richard Keel is Jaws. He does the standard thing. So, I thought they did a good job. I thought the characterization was good. I thought they picked just fine actors and actresses for the parts. I was happy with it. In fact, BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm surprised that you. Well, no, this sounds judgmental. It's not. It actually is. I find it interesting that you like the film. I was expecting you to eviscerate it, but at the same time, you kind of, it's. We all pull different things out of the film. And the interesting thing, too, is that, we all have a love-hate relationship with something that kind of falls into just above mediocrity, but has this huge budget. I don't know, sort of like Star Trek, the motion picture. You go, you know what? That would have been a great film with a better story. And yet you got like a bazillion, jillion dollars that they put into the film. You go, well, not that bad, considering they spent 10 times more than they should have on the film. But I don't know. It's one of those weird things. Just thinking out loud, which is probably a bad idea on my part. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on characterization for the movie Moonraker from 1979 from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
This is WB50ZL. Interesting thing about the braces, I remembered braces also, that so many of us remember it that way, and it's not true. It must be one of those Mandela effect things, like collective wrong memories. But anyway, I liked all the characters. They're just all cartoons. They're larger than life, and it's overplayed, and it just makes it funny. If they were to make them more normal, and less extreme, it wouldn't be nearly as good. I liked Roger Moore as Bond. Sean Connery will always be my favorite, but he was the first. But that's okay. We can accept the others. And he did a good job. Let's see. Characters. Lots of characters in all these things. And it's campy. So much has already been said, I don't want to just keep going on repeating everybody's comments. So I'll quit. WB50ZL.
Thank you, Miss Brenda. We'll have one final round. It'll be an open round, so anything you want to say then will be fine. David, W5EVB, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX?
Well, about 5 years ago, I bought Roger Moore's My Word is My Bond memoir, his autobiography, and I just now got around to reading it. This was the impetus to make me read that book after having it sitting around for so long. It's hardcover. It was like $4. It was like, well, one day, and this week was that one day. Yeah, and it has a lot of name dropping, self-indulgent reflections. A lot of detail, a few sexcapades revealed, typical of celebrity memoirs, but it's a pretty easy read. And in it you find that very early in his career, a director advised him, smile a lot because you're not that good. Roger was very aware of his limited acting range, and that really only particular roles matched his style and ability. And it turns out, later in his career, they happened to be quite lucrative. He didn't act to promote his art or hone his craft. He was an actor to make a living. He was a working actor from the 50s. And in that, he was quite successful. He says that only the movie The Man Who Haunted Himself from 1970 was where he really felt he was able to truly act. And the Spielberg thing was mentioned in this book also. And Cubby Broccoli was probably the one who rejected Spielberg because he was very staunch that no directors get a percentage. Directors only get a fixed contracted compensation. And that's probably perhaps why Spielberg wasn't the director of this movie. Now, Jaws was played by Richard Kiel, who Moore described as a gentle giant, and he was actually an accomplished writer as well as actor. He finally got a single speaking line at the end of Moonraker, well, here's to us. And the Jaws character was probably a really nice guy, just happens to kill people for a living. It was, after all, the job he was built for, to murder people. And who can blame him for just doing his job? There is a class of people, though, whose teeth are as swords and whose fangs are as knives, to devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among men. Now, Moore had a couple of scares as a child and almost died when he was 5 or 6 years old. He had a bout of double bronchial pneumonia, which his survival he attributed to a treatment provided by the nurse, what appeared to be an ash poultice, a gray, earthy-looking mess that was spread on lint and placed on his chest and back, and said it burned like hell, but he survived it. And later in childhood, he had lead poisoning from an air gun pellet lodged in his shin, and also acute appendicitis. So 007 was lucky to have made it to puberty. Now, his memoir provides insight into what it was like as a working actor back in the 50s and 60s, the difficulty of landing even temporary jobs, and he was also a contracted actor for MGM and then Warner Brothers, and that was very routine and very constrained. And Roger was a practical joker, often playing pranks on the crew, from smearing black shoe polish on the movie camera lens to giving out chocolate to the crew, except for the new guy who got X-Lax chocolate. And examples where those who pranked Roger were doubly pranked in return. Don't mess with Roger. Roger developed a technique with the villains of imagining they had halitosis. And you'll see how he looks mildly repulsed whenever he's in a scene with a baddie. And if you look, he does. He kind of cringes, grimaces, and raises his nose a little bit like they've got bad breath. W5EBB.
Thank you, David. You always got a good backstory, too. Very interesting. Okay, I know that Bill is gone. I know that Chaz is gone. So we're going to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, wake up. Tell us about characterization from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I googled the whole braces thing again, and yeah, it looks like it was not really existed. So yeah, it's weird. Because 5 or 6 years ago, it was pretty adamant that it was there, but now there seems to be proof that it wasn't. So yeah, very strange. Yeah, the characters are typical Bond characters. You know, there's nothing surprising here. You don't expect, you know, deep backgrounds or anything like that. You know, Bond's almost like a comic book character. You know what you're getting into. You know what you're getting. So you really don't expect or really, you know, even really want, you know, what makes him tick kind of a thing. So yeah, Bond is Bond. And then, of course, the bad guys are always super, super bad. So yeah, I think it was, you know, it was well acted for what it was written for. So really no complaints there. Yeah, typically a movie like this, you'd probably tear it apart, but being that you know what it is, you kind of watch it differently. You know, like some of the more modern space movies that have tried, especially a few of those on Netflix that are quite honestly not good, and they should be. But anyway, I don't really have anything else to add, so I'll send it back to Net Control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And I don't have a lot to add to any of this as far as characterization. They're typical supervillain, Bond girls stuff going on, which is fine. And I already alluded to the part about, you know, being self-aware. And Roger Moore is fine. I do not consider him the best Bond ever. He's just not. There's just something about him that is just not authentic, and I guess that's probably my problem with most of those. Now, if you want somebody who's really terrible, Timothy Dalton is truly, his name suggests that he's dull and not very entertaining as Bond, so I don't know. Roger Lazenby, he could have been really good, I think, but he washed out back in the 60s for whatever reason. I think the 60s washed him out, which is too bad, but oh well. Let's see here. I don't really have anything else to say about characterizations. Everybody covered it, so I'm not going to belabor the point. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Anybody have any final comments? Anything you want to say about Moonraker? This can be music, special effects, anything you want. Please come with your call sign. I'll go down the list. Please come down.
5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo, Bravo.
November.
All right, very good. I've got N5BB, NT5TM, W5EBB, K5PWN. So we'll start at the top. Bill, N5BB. Anything you want to say about the movie? Go ahead.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Let me go back over my notes here. When Holly Goodhead, when they were in her room, and Bond opened up her little small purse. There was an antenna that popped out, along with some horrible simulation of Morse code. That's when he knew she was a CIA agent. But it wasn't really Morse code. It was just something they threw together. I don't know why these people making movies can't find somebody to produce some real good Morse code there. It would have been so much better. Anyway, it was fake Morse code. When they're getting ready to go into the lab with his handlers, the guys in suits, they put on gas masks. Or maybe, yeah, that's where it was, I believe. Anyway, to me, this would have been kind of silly. I mean, he didn't know if those they weren't bottles of oxygen. They were just kind of regular-looking filter and gas masks. With an unknown toxin in there, it would have been stupid to wear a conventional gas mask. Did you notice that they flew an Air France supersonic transport plane to Rio? I don't even know if that plane even went to Rio, but that's what they flew there. What else do I have here? I've already talked about, like, open the cargo bay doors and a trying step for mankind. Trying to think of anything else I saw that was weird. No. I guess that's about it. You know, when I look at this again, it's really pretty neat that they did all that 2 years before STS-1, the first space shuttle, launched. So this movie was talking about, you know, things that were in the future, even in the space program. But they were able to copy very well what the shuttle looked like with its side boosters and everything. And, you know, I thought they did a pretty good job of it. I thought the special effects were just fine for this kind of movie. And I thought the space effects were reasonably good, and it did look like they were having a battle out there and you know, floating around there in space. What I did not understand is why, I'd like somebody to tell me, if anybody here knows, Tom says on there, yes, they show, he thinks maybe they did fly the Concorde to Rio, maybe so. Anyway, the space station broke up. Why did it break up? That wasn't obvious to me why the space station was breaking up. I mean, they were fighting in it, but I didn't think any of that fighting. I didn't see any bombs going. Maybe there were, but I didn't notice anything going off that would break up the space station. So that was the one thing I didn't understand from that. Guess that's it. Good night, N5BB. Good movie.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I'm checking here, and good old Wikipedia always has it. There were scheduled flights from London, Bahrain, and from Paris to Rio de Janeiro, and it doesn't say via Dakar, but I do believe it was Air France now. I'm not sure. The wiki doesn't exactly say it. January 21st, 1976, that puts it squarely inside of the time of this movie. So pretty cool. Thanks for the comment, though. I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. Next up, NT5TM. Tony, you've got final comments. Please go ahead. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for staying up late with us and staying coherent. Yeah, the Concorde was a nice touch. And although really so much of this movie was in so many Earthbound places, Paris and, not Paris, I was trying to say Venice and Rio, Up until the moment the space station inexplicably begins exploding and falling down, that didn't make any sense to me at all. Yeah, I vote with Bill on that. It was kind of fun because so much of Star Wars was so visionary and famous, but didn't make any sense at all, and this movie is widely reviled, but a lot of its effects actually did make sense and were realistic. Space is a vacuum. You have to fire thrusters to change your directions. You can't fly around like you're in a World War II propeller plane for some reason. Yeah, nothing's perfect, but a surprising amount of the space stuff, brief as it was, made sense. I thought that was kind of neat. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. Except maybe pressing that big red button that stops everything and makes it weightless. But that's okay. I think Deep Space Nine even did that in an episode. W5EBB, David, your final comments. What do you got to tell us from KE5I6?
Well, thanks, Tom, for running the net tonight. In the centrifuge scene for the skin rippling effect, the prop guys rigged small high-pressure hoses that jetted air over areas of his space. So I thought it was a big hairdryer, but it was small, little high-pressure hoses. Now, some bribes, or rather donations, were made by Mr. Broccoli to the Save Venice Fund to arrange approval for some of the scenes in Italy in the canals where there was gunfire, explosions, a mock funeral, and a, quote, hovercraft crossing St. Mark's Square. And actually that scene was where there were just a lot of tourists there, too. So they had a horn on the thing to make sure nobody was in the way. And when it was felt that more flowers were needed to dress the boat carrying the coffin in the canal, a few prop guys gathered up a number of wreaths from outside of a church near St. Mark's Square where a real funeral was taking place. The show must go on, and the end justifies the means, apparently. Now, the close encounter tones were certainly not DTMF, dual tone multi-frequency keypad tones, because if you look at the finger pattern, if it was a phone keypad, it was 12580, and if it was a calculator keypad, it was 78520. I'm sure that'll come in handy somehow. W5EBB.
Oh, David, I should have expected that from you, and now I will from this time forward. As far as it's funny because other people have done that too. They've done the DTMF thing and decoded it in movies and other things because it's not that hard. In this case, it didn't exist, so that was interesting. I love the comments about the wreaths and stealing them. It's amazing what can happen when you do stuff like that. And I do, nothing major or anything like that. I'm in part of, video production stuff as part of what I do for work. And there's a lot of times that we go and we shortcut stuff and we figure out ways to get around something to make it work. And that, I think we're going to get a bunch of T-shirts for everybody that says fix it in post, because that's exactly what happens. You got to figure out, I'm in this circumstance, I got to get out of this thing, I got to get this thing done. Oh wait, look over there. There's a balloon, a balloon that you would use, a meteorological balloon, and then suddenly it shows up as a major piece in a television series. You got to do that stuff, and you got to do it quickly. And sometimes it's not pretty, sometimes it doesn't always work, but you get the work done. All right, KI5PWN, that would be Tom. Your final comments, go ahead. Anything you want to say about this movie, or not, go ahead, from KE5ICX.
I'll keep it real quick because I know we've run over and we've been talking for a while. I did just want to mention there's one scene in that movie where that lady gets killed by the dog. That was actually a very well-produced scene. I mean, the cinematography was fantastic. It wasn't gory at all, but man, it was chilling, and her final screams, during that filming made that whole scene pretty chilling. So I just wanted to point that out as far as special effects and film. I mentioned the skydiving was great. The gondola scene in Venice was terrible. I wanted to quickly mention product endorsements. So typically James Bond's known for, fast cars and driving fast cars and all that stuff. He didn't drive one car in this movie. There was no car driven by James Bond at all in the movie. There were some good cars, but they were all owned by Drax. And then as far as watches, James Bond's usually known for Rolex and Omega watches. In this particular movie, the watch he wore was a battery-operated Seiko digital watch. So it was not even, like a mechanical high-end watch. And then finally, I'll just say that if you like James Bond, my favorite one is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. George Lazenby is James Bond. He only played James Bond one time for that one movie. And if you don't know, James Bond was once married. And if you don't know what happened to his marriage or his wife, you should watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's a really good movie. Thanks. KI5PWN.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your comments. And that is my secretly favorite James Bond film, is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. In so many ways, and don't tell anybody. I'll whisper it. That was my favorite Bond movie. Okay, I want to thank everybody who checked in this evening. This was great. I was surprised we had so many comments about this film, but and a lot of positive comments. I was expecting a lot of negativeness, and there really wasn't. It was just kind of amazing that people liked the film. They understood the film. They realized it isn't going to be this great masterpiece or anything else, but it was enjoyable, and I felt the same way. It was a fun film. There wasn't anything wrong with it as far as just having fun with it. Yes, it violated every physical force in the universe, but sometimes that's just the way it is. So let me reset. Next week is Field Day, and that's fine. And if you would like to check in at 10:30 next week, please do so. Next week's movie is a bit weird, but they always are when we go and do Field Day. This one is one you've never seen before because nobody saw it. And it's kind of a science fiction slant, but here we go. Addams Family Reunion from 1998. It stars Tim Curry, yes, that Tim Curry as Gomez, and Daryl Hannah as Morticia. I haven't seen it. I didn't know it existed, but it does. So there you have it. Next week's movie, Addams Family Reunion from 1998. I think it's only in one place. It's a VHS rip, so apparently it didn't do real well. It's about an hour and a half long. But, it might be fun to watch. Certainly those two actors are a lot of fun. That is good. We'll see you next week. If you would like to be on the list for the movies, that if you miss the net, you can go ahead and send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com. I will send you the links to the films and how you can watch them streaming. If you have Facebook and you like Facebook, not everybody does, you can go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow Movie, sign up there. You'll get the same information. I want to thank everybody tonight, and a really great discussion. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you next time. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.
KI5GRH. That was entertaining while I had to drive to Rowlett. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Hey Melissa, be careful. It's late to be driving NT5TM.
Hi, Tony. Yeah, Esther just got back from her canoe trip. She was in the Missouri River for a week. So, yeah, I see the bus. They're unloading the